The amazing history of Greenland. Greenland's history dates back to approximately 2500 BCE, when the initial inhabitants were believed to have arrived. The current population is primarily descended from the most recent wave of immigration, known as the Thule culture, which settled in the area around the 13th century AD. This sounds intriguing, considering an ice sheet encompasses approximately 80% of the island, significantly limiting human activities to the coastal regions. In this video, we will explore the history of this amazing island and how its first inhabitants survived the icy world. We encourage you to stay with us and watch until the end. How it all began. As we mentioned earlier, the first inhabitants of Greenland were believed to have arrived around 2500 BCE. The descendants of these early inhabitants seemingly became extinct, giving way to various groups that migrated from continental North America. The forebears of the contemporary Greenlandic Inuit are thought to have arrived later, around 1200, migrating from northwestern Greenland. Evidence suggests that the Norsemen were unaware of Greenland until the 9th century CE, when Norse explorers from Iceland established settlements along the southwestern coast. Though the early Norse settlements that were part of Denmark's history eventually vanished, the Inuit managed to endure the harsh conditions of the island, remaining the sole residents for several centuries. During this period, Denmark-Norway, under the impression that the Norse settlements were still occupying the island, continued to claim it despite the non-existent communication between them and the Norse settlers in Greenland. What happened next? Stay with us, as our discussion will continue shortly. Missionary expedition to Greenland. In 1721, in its quest to establish itself as a colonial power, Denmark-Norway dispatched a missionary expedition to Greenland to reintroduce Christianity to the descendants of the Norse Greenlanders, who were believed to have reverted to paganism. Upon discovering no such descendants, the missionaries baptized the Inuit Greenlanders they encountered. In 1776, the Danish government established a monopoly over trade with Greenland. Denmark-Norway established trading colonies along the coast throughout this time and enforced a trade monopoly and other colonial privileges. But World War II changed everything, and Greenland became less connected to Denmark. After the war, Denmark resumed control of Greenland. If you want to know more, stay tuned. Our subsequent discussion will reveal all the juicy details about Greenland's amazing history. The earliest known cultures in Greenland. Successive waves of immigration from other islands characterize part of Greenland's history. It is believed that the inhabitants of these islands are descendants of those who migrated from Siberia into North America via Beringia thousands of years ago. Due to Greenland's isolation and harsh climate, survival proved challenging. Over the centuries, various cultures emerged and faded as groups perished and were supplanted by new arrivals. The earliest documented cultures in Greenland include the Sakak culture, which existed around 2500 to 800 BCE, and the Independence I culture, which existed in northern Greenland around 2400 to 1300 BCE. Archaeological evidence provides only rough estimates regarding the timelines of the cultures. Still, it is believed that the individuals associated with these cultures originated from distinct groups that migrated to Greenland from North America, specifically from the nearby region of Nunavut. The emergence of other cultures. By around 800 BCE, the Independence II culture emerged in the same area previously occupied by the Independence Thrun culture. Initially, it was thought that the early Dorset culture followed Independence II. However, some artifacts from Independence II have been dated as late as the 1st century BCE. Following the disappearance of the early Dorset culture around CE 1, Greenland appears to have been uninhabited until the arrival of the late Dorset people, who settled on the Greenlandic side of the Nares Strait around 700 CE. The late Dorset culture in northern Greenland continued to occupy the island until approximately 1300. Recent research indicates that the Dorset culture in Greenland may be more accurately viewed as a continuation of the Independence II culture, leading to the designation of the two as Greenlandic Dorset. Artifacts linked to the early Dorset culture have been discovered as far north as Inglefield Land on the west coast and the Dove Bay region on the east coast. Meanwhile, the Norse arrived and established settlements in the southern part of the island in 980. How did this happen? Norse settlement in Greenland. According to available data that documents the history of Denmark, Europeans likely became aware of Greenland's existence in the late 9th century, while Gunnbjørn Ulfsson, a Norwegian settler and the first European to sight Greenland, was navigating from Norway to Iceland. Reportedly, he was diverted by a storm and spotted several islands off the coast of Greenland. In the 980s, explorers led by Eric the Red, a Norse explorer, departed from Iceland and reached Greenland's southwest coast. Eric designated the island Greenland because he believed a favorable name would attract settlers. The book, The Saga of Eric the Red, an Icelandic saga about the Norse exploration of North America, states that Eric was exiled from Iceland for 3 years due to a murder he committed around 982. He then sailed to Greenland, exploring the coastline and claiming various territories. Subsequently, he returned to Iceland to encourage others to join him in founding a settlement in Greenland. His mission was successful but didn't last long. What went wrong? Our subsequent discussion will reveal the details. How the Norse settlement collapsed. The Norse established 3 distinct settlements in the southwestern region of Greenland, and population estimates for these settlements at their peak range from 2,000 to 10,000. The economic activities of the Norse Greenlanders were based on a blend of pastoral agriculture, hunting, and limited fishing. Following a period of prosperity, the Norse colonies in Greenland experienced a decline during the 14th century. The eastern settlement likely ceased to exist by the mid-15th century, although a precise date has not been determined. A European vessel that arrived at the site of the former eastern settlement in the 1540s discovered the remains of a Norse individual, which could represent the final mention of a Norse person from that settlement. The Norse settlement may have collapsed for various reasons, including climate change, environmental damage, and conflict with the Inuit. Following the Norse's exit, Denmark recolonized the island, but World War II caused them to lose control. What transpired afterward will form part of our discussion as we bring you more facts about the captivating history of Greenland. Greenland during and after World War II. When Germany invaded and occupied Denmark in 1940, Greenland became independent from Danish governance and resources. Greenland served as a critical location for bases during the Battle of the Atlantic and for essential weather forecasting, a situation which benefited Nazi Germany and the Allies. On April 9, 1941, Henrik Kaufmann, the Danish minister to the United States, who had previously refused to acknowledge the German occupation of Denmark, entered into a treaty with the United States that permitted the establishment of stations in Greenland. Kaufmann undertook this action without the consent of the Danish government, which led to accusations of high treason against him, his dismissal, and a demand for his return to Denmark. However, these actions had no tangible effect. Due to the challenges faced by the Danish government in administering the island during the war, coupled with successful exports, particularly of cryolite, Greenland began to experience a degree of autonomy, with the United States assuring its supplies. Germany's attempt to set up a series of weather stations in eastern Greenland was repelled, and they were forced to abandon their weather stations in 1944. What became of Greenland will form the concluding part of this video. How Greenland gained self-governance. Following the war's conclusion, Denmark re-established its authority over Greenland and, in 1953, transitioned its designation from a colony to an overseas county. While Greenland remains a constituent of the Kingdom of Denmark, it has experienced a degree of self-governance since 1979. In 1985, the island opted to withdraw from the European Economic Community, EEC, which it had entered alongside Denmark in 1973. Greenland Home Rule has progressively embraced a more distinct Greenlandic identity, distancing itself from Danish influences and regional dialects to unify the nation under the language and culture of the Kala-Alit, aka West Greenland Inuit. In 1979, the capital Godthaab was officially renamed Nuuk. A local flag was introduced in 1985, and the Danish KGH transitioned to the locally managed Kala-Alit Nordfjord in 1986. Following a successful self-government referendum in 2008, the powers of the local parliament were enhanced, and Danish was eliminated as an official language in 2009. As we conclude this video, we would like to hear from you. Please visit the comments section and keep the conversation going.